Good evening and welcome to tonight's Yukon City Council Yukon Municipal Authority work session. It is November 7th, 2023 at 6:30. We're here in the council chambers at the Centennial Building, 12 South 5th Street in the great city of Yukon, Oklahoma. Tonight we're going to discuss and have a presentation of the Kings Ridge Addition Drainage Report and the intersection improvements of Yukon Parkway and Vandament by Team Design. Oh, there you are.
Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members, my name is Joe Davis with Team Design. Tonight for our study session, we're going to go over a couple of the projects that we've seen some need on. The first one we're going to go ahead and talk about, it's going to be the Yukon Parkway and Vandament Avenue intersection. The project has been around for a bit. I think a lot of you guys have been seeing some of the congestion we've been having at this intersection. When we started seeing the congestion at the intersection, I think you guys recognized the first thought is we do not have left turns there, dedicated left turns there. We do have the one dedicated right-hand turn that's on the eastbound traffic on Vandament, but again, we do not have dedicated left turns. So we went ahead and contacted our traffic consultant, which is TEC, to go ahead and do a study. They did the study, and the results from the study stated that we do need left-hand turns. I think everybody kind of intuitively thought that's what we needed, and sure enough, that's what we needed. So how do we go ahead and put left-hand turns in? We started looking at the project, a year and a half ago or so, and when we looked at the project, we looked at adding dedicated left turn lanes and then keeping the existing 4 lanes through. So we'd have 2 lanes in each direction. So if we talk a little bit more specifically on the project, we have 3 of the quadrants are in the city limits of Yukon, and we have the southeast quadrant that's in Oklahoma City. So it adds a little bit of a challenge for us to look at on how do we go ahead and make these improvements. We look at the 2 legs on the north and southbound on Yukon Parkway, and those are existing 2 lanes each direction, so we have a 4-lane section there. On Vandament, going to the west, it's 4 lanes, but when we go to 23rd Street going east, it's only really a 2-lane section there. So we contacted Oklahoma City the past month and asked them if they have any plans for doing any widening on 23rd Street. We went ahead and submitted a plan to them to have them to make their comments, and they did not have anything in their near future to go ahead and change what the existing configuration is. So once we start putting all the pieces together, is there something we can do differently that may be a little bit more cost beneficial for the city of Yukon here to move forward with the project? So we started looking at what we could do. So some of the things you may see here that we're doing is we are really focused on adding a dedicated left turn on the northbound and southbound, and we're still going to go ahead and maintain the 2 lanes of traffic going both north and south. When we're looking east and west, this is where we're doing a little bit of a change from the plan. And since on 23rd Street will only be a 2-lane, we went ahead and striped out one lane to go ahead and be a dedicated left turn from what's currently there. And when we're looking at Vandament, what we're going to be doing is striping out the 2 lanes that are going westbound, that will only have 1 lane going westbound. And one of the lanes, existing lanes, we're going to stripe out for a left turn bay. And what we're trying to do is minimize right-of-way acquisition, minimize relocation of utilities, and we're trying to minimize impact to drainage. So by doing that, we were able to go ahead and identify significant cost savings from a full-blown intersection, which is, again, 4 lanes in all directions. Oklahoma City went ahead and looked at this configuration, and they concurred that this would go ahead and meet their needs also. So from that, we went ahead and developed a cost opinion of $790,000. The cost opinion is just a very preliminary number right now because we have not received survey yet. Once we do survey and start doing the actual design, it can be within that realm for a number. But we're trying to get a number that's a fairly good idea of what that cost of the project's going to be. So if you guys have any questions on the project.
what was it we allotted in capital projects before we decided to take some of the money and give it to Vice Mayor Wooten's sidewalks? What was the first amount?
2.25 million,
And then what was the cut amount?
250,000.
Okay. So we have enough. We cut 250,000?
Yes.
Okay. I thought you were saying we
for
cut it to
sidewalks
250, and I was like,
Sidewalks.
Rodney, I'm sorry.
Sidewalks are
Okay.
going up.
Okay, so we would still have enough. Okay.
Yes.
Let me go ahead and hit one other quick thing too on that project. It is going to have pedestrian access on all four corners with sidewalks too. So you'll still have the safety of the push-button peds and the crosswalks.
Good. Okay. Any questions on that?
Is there any concerns on Vanderbilt going west with it being just the one lane?
So when we looked at it, we really aren't too concerned because it quickly goes ahead and shifts to the 2 lanes. 23rd Street is only 1 lane going westbound. So we really aren't having to narrow anything down because it's only going to be 1 through lane. So that's why we really weren't that too concerned with it. Now, to your question, if Oklahoma City does go ahead and make improvements to 23rd Street to make up 4 lanes, then yes, we will have to go ahead and modify the intersection.
But they said they didn't see anything in.
It doesn't look like that's going to happen.
And that's sad, because that's a very well-traveled road, and I wish they would keep up their part.
And I think we recognize one of the limiting factors is the turnpike.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, next project?
Well, real quick, once we get started,
Okay.
how long will that project take?
So
I
on
know that- I know that's a ballpark thing.
Yeah, so from the time we start to design to the time, if we have to do some right-of-way acquisition and moving utilities, these usually take a few years to get through.
Okay. So maybe 2025?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I've just been having people say, we need to do this, and I'm like, it's in the works.
Yeah, I had some correspondence this past week
Yeah.
on this very thing.
So kind of let everybody understand the time frame. Usually by the time we get survey and start the design process, that's usually about a 6-month period. We go ahead and notify the utility companies to start moving utilities, and then that's usually at least a 6-month period on moving utilities. That's if we don't have to acquire any right-of-way.
Okay.
And then the construction process, probably 8 months idea for going ahead and doing the improvements.
Okay. Thank you.
Would there
Yes,
be a
ma'am.
lot of utility movement? Doesn't look like we're.
So
widening
there,
a whole lot.
so from what we're seeing, we're trying to do everything to miss, but once we actually get the survey and we get all the underground utilities, that's when we're gonna understand what the issues are gonna be.
Thank
So again, it's the things we can't see right now.
Okay. Next.
Thank you. So Kings Ridge Drainage. Kings Ridge Drainage is a nice neighborhood, and pretty much as we're seeing, Oklahoma City keeps on growing out towards Yukon, and there is a housing addition that's backing up to Kings Ridge right now. When all the improvements got constructed in the original Kings Ridge, there was a drainage structure that was there to try to handle the drainage that was coming down the street. So there was a great inlet that was in the street, and then it went to a box structure and carried it out to the west, and then it made a sharp turn back to the north, and then dumped into a ditch. Then the housing development came in place, excuse me. And with that, a bunch of additional drainage came basically at the same place that the original drainage from Kings Ridge came in. And we started creating some drainage issues here. So when we start looking at it, we're now able to see really what's happening in the whole drainage basin, this little small drainage basin, and how do we handle this issue? How do we handle the localized flooding we're seeing at this specific location? So if you kind of look at it, there is a drainage grate right there, some inlets, and then there's a concrete drainage flume that goes ahead and splits between the two houses. And it's about a 5-foot drainage ditch. And it pretty much stopped at the city limits line. The development came in, and when they came in, they went ahead and continued that drainage ditch onto the east a little bit, and then straight to the north, and then dumped into the concrete flume ditch that goes to feed into that pond. The original structure, you can kind of see it in the right-hand portion of the photo. You can see a drainage structure that's coming out about, excuse me, where the fence line is. And that's the original pipe that was constructed when the housing addition was constructed. So you can see where there's a confluence of all this drainage in one spot. And we're having where the pipe structures aren't large enough to go ahead and take care of all this drainage. So we went ahead and had our hydraulic engineer look at some solutions. Excuse me. And the solutions was the structures there are too small. The current structure that comes off of the street, off the Gary Grate and those hoods, is a 5-foot wide by 2-foot deep structure. It goes to the east, which is the blue line, and then when it goes to the green line, it's a large elliptical pipe that goes ahead and carries it to the north. So what needs to happen is it needs to be a larger structure, and it needs to be the same 5-foot wide but 4-foot deep box structure. And by doing that, we can go ahead and keep all that flow within that structure so it can go ahead and get out of that low area. So we can go ahead and blow it up a little bit. This is a really tight area. It's basically, we'll be taking out the existing pipe structure and then replacing it with a precast box structure. So instead of it being about an elliptical 48-inch pipe, it'll be a 5x4, so it'll have a lot more conveyance.
Should the developer have done this in the first place, or is this a city?
So it is a city went ahead and accepted the improvements with the plat. So these are city facilities now. There's just been an awful lot that's occurred in this basin recently that's enhanced what the problem is.
Okay.
So we probably didn't see that much problem when everything was constructed. Now we are. So the question is, how do we take care of it? So again, on this one, it's going to be difficult because we have a few utilities there and power poles that are there. The addition in Oklahoma City is all underground electric, so you really don't see any power poles there. To be able to construct this, though, we'll have to get some temporary construction easements in Oklahoma City, probably with the property owners. There is already a wide drainage easement in Oklahoma City that goes in and takes care of this area. So we'll go ahead and have to construct the improvements by being in Oklahoma City and moving from the north to the south to go ahead and do the improvements.
Is this going through their backyard or behind their property line?
This will be going in their backyards. And again, you can see the houses are very close to the backyards. So it's going to be a very difficult project.
But it has to be done.
So again, the person that's going to be impacting the most will be, of course, those two houses. The one house, of course, is having some localized flooding issues, so I'm sure they'll probably be supportive of the project, even though they recognize it's going to be a extreme inconvenience for a few months during the construction. And again, we're looking at using precast boxes, so instead of having to set up forms, cast, wait for it to cure, it'll be just like laying pipe. So the conceptual cost, and again, we don't have any survey. Conceptual cost is $360,000.
Any questions? Where's that money coming from?
We did not budget for that. So the money that we have extra from the intersection, we will be using that to replace this box.
But this has been a constant problem for several years.
Yes, ma'am.
We could have done it for less expensive, but when I talked to Joe, about it, we decided that there's no sense in putting a Band-Aid on it. Let's do it the right
Yeah,
way and
fix it.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that.
So the other option we talked just very, very briefly on is similar to what we were seeing that was constructed in Oklahoma City, was just an open channel, concrete channel. And nobody's gonna really want that.
Not through their backyard.
No. So if I can go back, maybe. So if we go ahead and go into the Oklahoma City addition, that's what they've gone ahead and constructed in some of the areas, and open concrete ditches in the backyard. If we were doing that, it would require us to go ahead and negotiate with the property owners in Oklahoma City to try to secure additional easement to take care of that drainage and open channel ditches there, concrete ditches, which we felt was gonna be a very, very uphill battle. So we felt that by the time we secured the additional cost to do that, it would be offset by what the actual construction cost would be for doing it the way we're saying, the right way of doing it. And then the structures will be fully in city limits of Yukon. So if there's any other issues, we can go ahead and take care of them.
Were the Oklahoma City houses having any issues with drainage? Or is it running the other direction?
It's running the other
Okay.
direction. Everything is getting into those big ditches and then draining off to the pond.
Gotcha.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. We will adjourn this meeting and we will reconvene at 7 o'clock.